Welcome back to the second video about the Britannia Depicta from 1720. There are a large number of images in this exhibit. I think there's over 150. And at the end of it, there are some slides that I put together to put some context into this exhibit. And I want to go over these slides. There's a group of them starting here with the white backgrounds that go over some historical roadmaps. And then there's also a couple of slides from the original Britannia Atlas from 1675 that was done by Ogilby himself. And I wanted to share some of those slides. So we're going to start with the overview about maps. So I wanted to start with sort of a fundamental question, because this exhibit is about road maps. And I think road maps are, they may be the most fundamental, but there's multiple kinds of maps. And I think a lot about, what does it mean to be a map? One of my favorite definitions comes from a terrific author named Thomas Reinertsen-Berg, who says that maps are graphic representations that facilitate a spatial understanding of things, concepts, conditions, processes, or events in the human world. It's a robust definition. And I went a step further with that and asked myself, okay, for what purposes are maps used? And I think there are three purposes. One is wayfinding. You want to get from A to B. How are you going to do that? It could be physically. It could also be conceptually. Maps are about explaining the physical world or one's place in the world. I believe this is Descartes. It's in Wikipedia's page on the brain. Let me look at this right here. Well, their link is right there. And then the last purpose is persuading. PJ Bode has a wonderful library of maps about persuasion. And I think maps are oftentimes used to convince and persuade people about things. Okay, so I want to go through wayfinding maps and the progression of those maps over time. Again, famous or noteworthy road maps, wayfinding maps throughout history. My thanks again to Daniel Crouch for his list, which I used to get started on this. The first one is called a Turin papyrus map. This is not a map of a very large area. It's from 1150 BC, and it was used during a quarrying expedition in the desert, I believe, of Arabia. And I think it was found in the 1920s. The Duro Europos shield. This is a map drawn on a shield by a Roman soldier. This was the one that was found in 1923 in Syria. And this soldier, it was found in Syria, but the map, I believe, was of Crimea. Next is a map called the Tabula Peutingeriana, and this is a Roman map. It's long and skinny, and it's wonderful. It's got depiction of essentially the entire Roman roads throughout the Roman Empire. Jacob Ford has done a wonderful rendition of this map using the New York subway theme. I should add that one in here. Next is a monk named Matthew of Paris, who in 1250 made a map of Britain. I also learned what a crenellation is, which is a castle-like symbol here. The Chaworth roll, which Daniel Crouch featured recently. And what's interesting is the desire to know sort of place, and that the church really was not always so helpful in making maps that were practical things for determining where you were. Um, and so that may be the reason why there were so few between the Tabula Peutingeriana and this map. The Goff map is important because of its break with theologically based mapping. Since antiquity, theologically based mapping did not really try to tell people routes and distances and place. And then this map, the Romeweg map, it's an upside down map. That's Italy right there. That's Denmark. And this was during the holy year 1500 when pilgrims were expected to go to Rome. This map was one of the first printed road maps of Central Europe. And then we get into Ogilby, and his really was a breakthrough in terms of the detail that went into it. All the features that were in it. Although here it looks kind of Spartan, and when you compare it to what Bowen and Owen did, they chocked this thing full of information, and that was one of their features, was filling out every nook and cranny with notes and things that would help or interest travelers, and also that it was published on both sides, making it a handier sized book. And then, of course, I couldn't not publish this whole exhibit without thinking about, as a kid, using a triptych, which was something that AAA made for you when you wanted to take a trip. And we had a card that looked a lot like this one and traveled from Minnesota to Florida, and we had a triptych to guide us on our way. We also had the big pull-out map, sort of a regular map as well. And this, of course, is a predecessor to Waze and the way that we wayfind now. You can see all the detail that was in those triptychs. They were really wonderful, wonderful things. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to share just briefly was Ogilby's 1675 Britannia. This frontispiece has this wonderful excitement about travel. You can see all these people. Here's someone looking at a map, and here's someone looking at a globe, and people are really excited about traveling. And you can see how maps were making it easier for people to travel and get out into the world. It's a very happy scene here. And then this is a page from the atlas. You can see the hill thing is going on. That's downhill because the hills are pointing down, and this would be uphill from this direction. And of course, this is London down here. And then the write-up that went with the Britannia Atlas from 1675, it was not as much on the pages, it was sort of afterwards. And then lastly, I found this lovely map. Now this one is from 1717. So Ogilby lived on for a number of years. And in this case, this is a map of sort of all of Ogilby's routes. And I just find this wonderful. I believe these are miles from London. I think it's just a spectacularly beautiful map. And so that's it. Thank you. Enjoy.